Let's go ahead and get started. Great evening. I am the dynamic, daring, one-of-a-kind diva, Denise Silas. Excited to have you guys on tonight for our Let's Talk About It Tuesday as we talk about nonprofits. So before we get started with that, I am going to share and introduce a little bit about who Empowered by DS is. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Make sure it's the right one. This is always when I cross my fingers and hope things happen like they're supposed to happen. Yes. Awesome. So, Empowered by DS, who is that? That's myself along with my two daughters, Alea and Amani. We started this it's been actually officially about 2 years. So what we are doing, our mission is to empower women to be the best version of themselves in the current season of their life, and we do that through experiences. So on a weekly basis, we do our Let's Talk About It Tuesday, where you're going to get a variety of topics. Now that you're on, you'll get just a notification so that you know what we're hosting. And if the topic relates to you, please jump on. If you know of somebody, please share it, because we just want women, we're addressing all issues that we can think of for women. So we do that weekly. On a monthly basis, we do what's called Diva Dinner and Dialogue. So through social self-care, we're bringing women together to dialogue by topics that will just help us feel like we are not alone. So we're building community through conversation. And then quarterly, we host our empowerment breakfast series. So we kick it off in January with our vision board party. We do a mid-year inspection. And then on October 25th, we're having our Finish Strong series. And then at the end of the year, we finish it up with our Vision of Victory celebration. So it's our goal to help women to focus on themselves, stay attentive to the things that they want, and then celebrate them at the end. We also host once a year a retreat. We did a day away in April, in April to Nashville. Did a retreat on the way there. We did some shopping, did some bonding, and then we came back. So we'll have another one in April, and then of 2027, our goal is to have a Wellness on the Water, a cruise for our retreat. We just hosted our annual Feel the Teal in Your Hottest Heels. That is for ovarian cancer awareness. My sister passed from that, so we've held 15 different events in her memory, raising probably well over $12,000, just so that we can increase the awareness of ovarian cancer. We support 3 organizations locally: DeSoto Hope. Then we have Mary Kay Foundation, and then the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance is the 3 that we support. So we just finished that up and have raised over $1,500 this year, and then had some amazing sponsors that helped us to do that as well. In addition to those, we also focus on, our whole thing is to focus on the full woman. So from her faith to her finances, to her family relationships, to her fitness and fun. So we do annually a devotional. Right now we're doing the 21 Most Powerful Minutes of a Leader's Day, along with which models John Maxwell's 21 Laws of Leadership, just helping women to remember they are leaders. So we have to lead ourselves first before we can lead anybody else. And I'll talk about this in a minute, have a empowerment subscription box that we do quarterly. I also do group training and one-on-one coaching. I have a Facebook community called the Side Tribe. The whole purpose of the Side Tribe is to help women find each other, the like-minded women. So the Side stands for Divas, empowering and connecting individuals who dare to excel. So if you are diva daring to excel, you want to be in our tribe, because we want to support you in doing that. And in about a month, we do our annual Adopt a Grandparent. That's the way that we give back. We're able to partner with Sacred Heart Southern Missions and be able to provide gifts to the low-income elderly in Tate, Tunica, Benton, Marshall, and DeSoto County. And it's over 400. So we're able to do that because we partner with people in the community, and they provide us the funds to help us to do that. So it's $15 a senior. That goes a long way for being able to give back to those seniors who often get missed, or they don't have their family, they're living by themselves. And so I'm always reminded by Laura, who is the woman I work with, that it does matter. So I am very grateful for those who help us, because 400 is not a small number. And every year it grows. So if you're looking for a way to give back during the holidays, please, I'll be sharing that, and keep us in mind for that as well. So coming up is our next Diva Dinner and Dialogue. We're having a pop-up shop. We want to be able to showcase some local small businesses and shop with them before we start to shop with all the retails. So we are the next one, June 7th. I mean, I don't know why I keep saying June 7th. November 7th is the next day. And we'll be, I have a flyer that we're going to also be looking for vendors. So if you want to learn more about that, you just text DDD to the 662 number, 212-5851, which is the number I send out information about. Let's talk about it Tuesday. Um, so that's coming up. We also have coming up, this is the rest of our quarter. So these are, we have our October 25th. It's a hybrid empowerment workshop. So you can, if you're local to us, it's going to be held in South Haven. If you're not, you can tune into us virtually. It's just about finishing strong. So getting ourselves focused, because a lot of times during the holiday season, we get off track from all the things. So my goal is to give you some strategies to help you stay on track so that you can finish off the year strong and being excited about going into the new year. Once again, November 7th and then December 13th, which initially was, we normally have our events on a Friday night, but because of mix up with the venue, we're going to have it that Saturday. So December 13th. And so this is the finish of our year. And then the first, just as a heads up, the first Saturday in the new year is when we're going to do our Vision of Victory party. So not our vision board party at the beginning of the year. So that will be coming up as well. So some of our other, you're going to hear from Ms. Andrea today, but I'm excited. Next week is going to be our first couple to share, because one of the things, of course, we know that Mary Kay used to always tell us that you can do something with the man, but you can't do it against the man. So just talking about, and I love this couple. They're so precious to me. Just being how you can support each other and stay on purpose through all the things that we have going on in life. So that's on the 14th. On the 21st, of course, this month is, in addition to Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it's also Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So Kimmy is an advocate. Her company, her organization is about finding, making people aware of domestic violence, making aware of the resources, how we can support people without judging. So she's going to cover all of that on the 21st. So even if you are not someone in that type of situation, come and learn so we know how to support people who may be going through that, maybe in denial about going through that as well. So I'm looking forward to having her. And then at the end of the month, Dr. Precious, if you remember Andrea, she was at the coaching meeting that we went to. She's going to be on talking about leading your ship. So leading, a lot of times we're trying to lead other people, but you have to lead yourself. So she's going to share with that, because she's all about self-awareness to be successful. So I love that. So that's our upcoming lineup for the month of October. So really excited about that. Right now, we have our fourth quarter Empower Me subscription box. It's all about, once again, finishing this year strong, doing what you can and letting God do the rest. That's the whole focus about this one. So we have some fun things in it, some pampering, some self-care stuff. But what's most important to me is this, the season journal. Just really helps you to sit down, focus, figure out what it is, the things that you want to finish out for the year. And all you do in that journal is track that stuff. It's all about that stuff. So if you can scan or go to the excuse me, our website, the Empowered by DS website, to see it. You can purchase it with a t-shirt for $55, or you can purchase without a t-shirt for $35. Makes a great gift. One of my friends uses it all the time, but it makes a great gift for anybody that you need to send a happy to, whether it's a birthday, just remembering them, they're working hard, any of that. So we are looking for vendors for our pop-up shop. So if you know of anybody, please share the information with it. The way I do it is very intimate. I don't have more than one person selling the same product. just so to give everybody the opportunity to showcase their own industry or their own specific one. If they have customized products, I do work with those a little bit differently. So that is what we're looking for the November 7th as well. So please share if you know of anybody, and they can just text vendor to the number and they can get more information right to their phone. Please check out our website for all the things that we do, empoweredbyds.com. You'll see some of the fun events we've had. Also, follow us on all the different platforms. Please, if you're on Facebook, look for us at the Side Tribe as well. The whole goal for that is to share positive, uplifting stuff, to be able to share the things that people are doing so that we can support each other as women. So here we go. So I am excited to introduce you guys to Miss Andrea Baird. I met her at a networking event, and her energy, I just clicked with her. We took the time to learn about what each other is doing, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to figure out if I should be a nonprofit, because people are constantly telling me that. So being able to learn from an expert, I'm so glad. I'm gonna stop this and read it. I'm so glad that you are willing to share your expertise with us on today. And it's recorded, so for other people to hear as well. So she's with 20 plus years of leading growth across sectors. Andrea helps mission-driven teams cut through complexity and scale with purpose. As founder of Thrive Impact Solutions and creator of LEAD, LEAD, she equips businesses and women to lead boldly and effectively. So I'm excited for her to share what she has. I don't think I forgot to give you the co-host. Let me do that right now. Make co-host. Confirm. And all right. So go ahead, take it away.
Okay, it looks like I'm in the hot seat now. Ooh, can everybody hear me okay? I think Denise,
Yeah.
I think you could
Yes.
hear me. Okay,
Mhm.
good, good. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Oh my gosh, you just had so much good stuff. I was like trying to write down as much as I could. I love that little I love your subscription box. I was thinking of my daughter right away. I
Oh,
was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to totally get that for her. So I'm super stoked about that. Thank you so much for sharing all of that good stuff. I love it. Yeah, so my name, I'm going to just share my screen here, get into it, if you will. Again, like Denise said, my name is Andrea Baird. And can you guys see my screen okay? Can you see
yes.
the presentation okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, I'm super super stoked to be here.
Can you
Wanted
make
to
it, can
yeah.
you make it bigger?
Yeah. How does
Okay.
that look?
Put it in presentation mode. Maybe
Yeah,
there it goes.
is that
Yes.
good? Okay, perfect. Yep. Yeah, so I am excited to share some information just about nonprofits in general, some good things to know, some facts, some myths, and everything kind of in between as well. So, wanted to start off first just with kind of what we're going to be touching base on. And that's going to be some things about, nonprofits in the realm of like legal stuff, governance, funding, programming, engagement, and just some of the tips that I've really been fortunate to learn along the way. Some of them have been trial and errors type of situations, which is, we all learn by, our failures and our successes. And then I'm going to have a great resource section for everybody. And all throughout, I've just so much. Stop me, let me know if you have any questions. I'm kind of toggling between two screens. So, Denise, if you can if folks have questions in the chat, please just let me know. Really, the purpose that I want this for folks to come out with is really just to give you some knowledge, some information on how, hey, if you're thinking about a nonprofit, can I expand my reach? Is it something that I'm going to be able to do and stay within the realm of like governance and laws and regulations and all of those things that we all worry about when we're jumping into a new endeavor. But mostly, I think really what I want folks to leave here with is an understanding of how you can really enact that community advocacy and drive any mission that you are all working on, because I know, as you know, hardworking ladies, that's what we're all really trying to do. We're trying to make impact. And a little bit about my organization. I am I have Thrive Impact Solution, and that is my company. So I'm the CEO and founder. And right now, I'm actually, Denise and I've actually kind of had some conversations about this. Okay, I have a business and I'm looking maybe to flip over to nonprofit, maybe my entire business, maybe part of my business, because I have programs that I really think will serve a demographic or a population or a community. So how do I do that? So I'm actually kind of in that realm, in that, same kind of decision making as folks might be here today. And so really what my goal is to really just help businesses with strategy and vision and, hey, are you diversifying your revenue streams, and how do you do that? And then also, if any organizations, be it businesses, for profit, nonprofit, education, any type of business, if they need help with like processes and standards and HR functions, and I'm very knowledgeable in finance. So, what about financial stuff? Like, what do we do with all of that? So, really, what I want to do is bring all of that information that I've learned along the way and just help out other organizations. I love to collaborate, I love to partner, and I love to be able to see. Especially female ran, women ran companies, be it nonprofits or what have you, be successful, and really have that clarity and that confidence to do that, successfully. So that's really the purpose of my organization, and there's some more information there on that slide. But I want to be able to get into, kind of the meat of why we're all here today, and I wanted to start off with this: why nonprofits matter. And I know we have a lot of folks. I know, Denise, you do a lot of work both in Tennessee and Mississippi. So I was really cognizant and thoughtful about that, because I wanted to make sure that I drew information from both, because I figured you'd probably have folks from both states. So I don't know if most folks know this, but there's like 40,000 registered nonprofits in Tennessee. That's a lot. And,
Wow.
and 21,000 registered nonprofits in Mississippi. And we think about that, like, why? Why is there so many? There's got to be a reason, right? Well, traditionally, nonprofits, what they do is they fill that gap. They fill the gap that a lot of maybe government agencies just can't fulfill, or there's individuals within the community, and they're like, man, there's a need out there, and this, if we create this nonprofit, we're going to be able to satisfy that need. And that's in crucial areas like in healthcare, education, housing, and economic development, too. And so what I think is really important too, specifically with the number of these nonprofits, is they're both in urban areas and rural areas. And we all know that, both states have these pockets of rural communities that just cannot get services. So what do? They often look at these nonprofits. So think about that when you're thinking about your own nonprofit. Like, is there a possibility that I can reach that rural population and possibly serve and help more individuals within those communities? So I wanted to kind of just start with that, because I think getting some information is really useful, because then you're like, wow, this is showing that both states are having a lot of impact on the communities that they serve. And so now what I want to do, because one of the things that I told Denise is, yeah, this is going to be interactive. So I came up with a couple throughout the presentation. I'm going to drop in some questions, and I'd love those that are in attendance to answer those questions when you see the poll pop up. And it's really not necessarily a poll; you're just going to fill out the answer in the chat box. So this is our first one: can I run my nonprofit without a board? And just type in yes or no in the chat. And then we're going to see what folks are saying. Okay, I've got one answer. Anybody else have a guess? on whether or not you're able to run your nonprofit without a board? Okay, all right, awesome. That is absolutely correct. You cannot run a nonprofit without a board of directors. So let's get into that a little bit. Let me let this little guy go away. All right. So this is the we're going to get into the really exciting stuff, the legal stuff of nonprofits, which is kind of like, oh my gosh, this is like, but it's really the important stuff too because it's all about being compliant. Nonprofits, I think more now, I really stay above, above you know, the realm of understanding what's happening in not with nonprofits right now. And right now, it's a little a delicate situation. 100%. I was on a call yesterday with the National Council of Nonprofits, and it's really interesting what's happening on the national level with nonprofits. So you want to make sure that you follow the letter of the law, and with that is in both states you need to make sure that you have at least three members of your board. Two of those technically have to be what's called officers, and that's either your chairperson and I'm sorry, your secretary. Now, both states don't really specify whether or not you need to have a treasurer, but I really, really strongly recommend that. I strongly recommend you have a treasurer on your board and that be your third person. Now, both states actually indicate, hey, you know what? It's probably a really good idea for you to have maybe 5 to 7 people on your board. But as you're getting started, that might be a little tough because you're trying to get people that are really, that'll buy into your nonprofit. So if one can't be a treasurer, that's okay. Just remember there's some things that you're going to have to make sure that you cover if you don't have somebody acting in that capacity. Um, so the other thing that I just wanted to touch base on here really quickly is I think sometimes, and maybe not folks here, but I think some folks believe that, oh, well, the CEO is part of the board, which is true. They're an officer of the organization, but they're a non-voting member. So you want to make sure that you understand that CEO, executive director, which is interchangeable. That's the same. It's whatever title you want to utilize. If it's if you're creating that nonprofit, then you'd be essentially that CEO or executive director or president. But for language sake, I'm going to just say executive director. You want to make sure that you have that understanding that they are not that third person. They are a non-voting member, and you need to have at least 3 voting members. And so the other thing that's really important is make sure you're creating those board governance policies, and that it really is exactly what that word means, board governance. What is the board going to govern and how are they going to be governed while they're board members with this nonprofit? And that's things like creating policies like that conflict of interest, whistleblower, and personnel policies that you might have to implement. The other thing that all nonprofits are bound to create is called your articles of incorporation. A lot of in both states, they kind of have a template that you can use. They're really easy to create, but that's in essence your charter showing that, hey, I am now incorporated as a nonprofit. And so each state requires that when you go to file. The next thing you need to make sure that you have recorded is what is called our bylaws. Bylaws are definitely, I mean, make no bones about it, 100% required for all nonprofits. Some bylaws are super long, and they specifically are the rules and regulations, standards, processes, what have you, that board members have to follow for that nonprofit. For instance, think about when you're in a board meeting and you're like, okay, well, we have to have a vote. Okay, how do you determine the percentage of that vote will carry? Or let's say you have a board member that falls off. and now you have to have a new board member come on. What are the rules and standards of all of that? Your bylaws will specify specifically what you have to follow and what your board has to follow. Again, some bylaws have a template. I've created bylaws. I've managed bylaws. I've had bylaws amended, and not only in organizations that I've worked for, but also in organizations that I've volunteered. I've been a leading board governance person, so I've been in charge of like, hey, these are the things that we need to change in our bylaws. The other thing that you need to make sure you do is you register your nonprofit in the home state. Specifically, I would kind of think about this more so in the state that you're going to be doing the majority of your work. What population are you going to be serving? Are you going to be serving a lot of people in Memphis? Or are you going to be serving a lot of people maybe in South Haven? So you need to figure out, okay, I'm going to be more my work's going to be done more here in Memphis. So that's going to be Tennessee. So you're going to file that paperwork in the state of Tennessee. The other thing too, you have to file what's called the EIN, and that's with the IRS. That's not with the state. It's not with either state. So that's on the federal level. So that is a requirement that you have to make sure that you do for all nonprofits. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more in a later on a later slide. But just know you have to file an EIN with the IRS. And make sure that you take down any meeting minutes of any board meeting, any committee meeting that you have within your nonprofit, because really important, the state at any point can ask for those records to review them. So if you are not keeping track of those meeting minutes when your board members all meet with you as the CEO or executive director, you can be in violation of basically the state rules. So make sure you're keeping copies of all your meeting minutes that you have with your board members. And this is more so like when you have things that come forth to the board where there's votes, where there's voting done, or if it is a legitimate board meeting or committee meeting, you have to have record of that. In both of those, we follow what's called the Roberts Rules of Order. Maybe some folks are familiar with that, but that's basically the guideline of like when folks make a motion, I move to whatever. There's a second, and maybe some discussion, and then they do the final vote. And there's a big giant slew of all other things to follow with the Roberts Rules of Orders, but typically in a board setting, that's the governing rule or orders that they follow with regard to how to operate that meeting. And I've got a big giant resource list that I'm going to share with Denise, and I'm happy for her to share that with everybody that's in attendance. Some don'ts. Make sure you do not have improper conflict of interest. So what does that mean? That means something like, you have a board member, you know that board member personally because they've bought into your nonprofit, and now you have, let's say, a grant, and you've got to go out and purchase whatever. Well, that board member has their brother who just happens to be in that business. That's a conflict of interest. That board member should not overstep that bound, because that could be seen as a conflict of interest. Really, the rule of thumb when it comes to like those situations, what I have followed, and a lot of other nonprofits follow this, is you get 3 bids. So your request for proposal, you get that sent out to 3 individuals, and you have those come back. And then the board members determine who they're going to select to move forward on whatever work that needs to be done. Thus, what those grant funds are going to pay. So you got to be really careful about conflict of interest, because that could be seen as a violation as well in terms of operating nonprofits. The other thing that you want to make sure you don't do is unreasonable executive compensation. And I know I've had this conversation before with other individuals about this. It's like, well, how do I get paid if I'm the CEO, founder of this nonprofit? And like, how does that all work? Now, remember, you still get compensated as that individual, because that's operations, and it takes operations to run a nonprofit. So you just really have to be mindful about the rules and regs with that. And if you're not familiar with that part of it, my suggestion is go talk to your CPA or accountant. Your accountant will know exactly the ins and outs and the ways. I'm not technically a CPA. I know a lot about a little or a little about a lot. So I don't want to give some advice to anybody without them talking to an individual that might be, you know, very, credentialed. But just know, even as a founder, you can be compensated. You just have to be careful about excessive compensation. Um, Make sure you are following your mission of that nonprofit. I can't stress that enough, because if you're like, well, we're serving pregnant women and families, and then you're working with all men, that is not following the mission of your nonprofit. So make sure that you really, watch for that too. And a breach of fiduciary duties, that's typically on the board side, but that's also can be staff members too. So don't breach any fiduciary duties if you're a board member or staff member, because that could be a deep, deep, severe violation and take that nonprofit status away from you. And the fiduciary duties is anything that has to do with like the financials and the care of the funds that that nonprofit is bringing in to then serve whatever programs, community, what have you. The other thing, we talked about this a little bit prior before, and this is where I kind of want to touch base on this. Your EIN that you have to file cannot be your personal social security number. Much like businesses, depending upon whatever your business is, sometimes you can use your personal social security number for a business, for profit. Nonprofits, not allowed to do that. You have to, that's why it's so important to file that EIN number with the IRS. And just know, nonprofits, separate EIN. And the IRS, there's a link for it. I've given a resource for that. And you just fill it out exactly how it shows you or tells you. And then you get an EIN number for your nonprofit. Just remember too, there's different requirements for states. So at a state level, so just be mindful about those requirements for those different requirements for the state, for each different state. So I wanted to do another poll for everybody, because I think it's like, oh my gosh, this is so much information. It's like, isn't there just one place where we could go and look at all of this? Yes. Which makes it really, really kind of like helpful. Not all the information, but at least a good majority of it. So, which state has comprehensive governance material that should be included to onboarding for all new board members? Is it Mississippi or Tennessee? So fill that out in the chat, and let's see what we come up with. Oops.
Well, will you touch on just some of the things you should look for in? I know you said what we kind of don't want, but what we should look for in deciding who would be a good fit for your board?
Yes. I will touch on that. Yep.
Okay.
Good question. Yes. All right. So we've got, oh, yay. Okay. So it looks like we got one that says Tennessee. Any other thoughts? Well,
What's wrong?
oh, hold on. Sorry. Get that out of there. Let's see. It is Tennessee. So I have it down here. Tennessee has this thing called the Guidebook for Tennessee Nonprofits. I was so like completely impressed when I found it. I was like, oh my gosh. And this is specifically for board, like the governance on like board members. And they have a bit about like, hey, if you want to open up a nonprofit, these are kind of the things, the rules that you need to kind of follow. But folks kind of like, this is a good segue, Denise, to your question. It's like, okay, what about these board members? Like, how do I get them, up to par with their responsibilities and what I need from them as a founder, CEO, executive director? And so this guidebook is such a good resource. Now, outside of the things that it specifically states about the state of Tennessee, it could be used honestly for Mississippi too. Just take out the stuff that, doesn't pertain to Mississippi. Now, Mississippi has a steps to start, and they call it a charity, and it's a PDF. And again, all this is in my resource page. But what I found on there is it's like one sheet, and it's like more so on like the nonprofit. It doesn't really dig in and dive into other areas, which I thought was uh, a little confusing because it had not confusing, but it just didn't have everything like the
Yes.
Tennessee one did.
Okay.
Yeah. So about your board members, big, big, big thing that you need to remember. This is for, nonprofit governance and compliance. Please, please, please make sure that your board members are diverse and diversely skilled. So what does that mean? That can mean different to a lot of people. So remember to have, a balance of men and women, balance of different ethnicities. And here's a big reason why. Funders, for some reason, they get really excited when nonprofits have diverse boards. So they don't want to have a board that just has necessarily all men or all white men, because that's not really, you're not really, when you come together as an organization, you're not a representation of the population. And that's really what funders are looking at. They're wanting to see, and not only funders, but I would also say some partners that I've had in years past, they'll ask me, what is your board makeup? And I'm like, oh yeah, here you go. And so I've been really you know, I'm very, very strict about having, whenever I'm involved with a board, hey, we need to make sure that we have diversification in this board. So make sure you're recruiting individuals like that are just different and different than you. Different. They have different skill sets than you do. You don't have to have somebody that's in love with specifically what you do, because remember those financial people, those data people, they're certainly wonderful to have on your board as well, because they're awesome resources to have on your board. Um, there's no, I wouldn't say, requirements necessarily that either state has with regard to who has to be on your board. They just want to see a good balance and a good mix of individuals and skill set. And that, I would say, primarily is really for the funders. But again, as long as you're meeting the standard of having the three, at least maybe five, but at least those three initial ones, being having the chair be definitely one, and your secretary, so that the secretary writes all the meeting
Okay.
notes. Yeah, those two are definitely important.
So,
Um, does that clarify that?
and so when you were saying the diversity of it, so
Yeah,
with my um, business being, um, 100% without any apology on women,
yeah.
would you still suggest a board having a male figure on the board?
It couldn't hurt, but here's what I've done in the past. What I'll do is I'll have an ad hoc committee, and I'll mention that I have an ad hoc committee where we get advisory, or an advisory committee, right? As an ad hoc committee where we have maybe some males in that advisory capacity, not necessarily on the board, but they're on a committee that serves the board. And a lot of times, I mean, funders are like, heck yeah, perfect, because they understand, right? Your organization and your nonprofit is specific to your population, specifically is women. So it does make sense for you to have probably an all woman board, but just making sure that you have some, you know, other, male individuals coming in a different capacity, not necessarily the board.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then remember that board members, 100% board members and staff, everybody is fiduciary. There's a fiduciary responsibility that each of those categories of people have. And that is specific, the duty of care, loyalty, and good faith to the nonprofit. So I've given in this little shaded box here, I've given a little bit of information on what's duty of good faith, what's duty of loyalty, and what's duty of care. And you will actually see that written a lot within board governance material. It's kind of like, you know, how doctors have to take an oath of care. It's the same thing. Board members, this is their oath, basically to nonprofits. And the guidebook for Tennessee for nonprofits has a really good. It's kind of where I got this from. They have a really good explanation in more detail. Remember too, for governance and compliance, you have to file a couple of things every year. What's your IRS Form 990, because you're a nonprofit, and your Tennessee or Mississippi annual report. I believe Mississippi has a similar thing that as Tennessee does. So 990s are a way that charity organizations basically show how much revenue and expenses they've had throughout the year. This is a requirement. This is why it's really kind of important to have somebody that has a base core understanding of maybe some financial accounting. They don't have to be a whiz, but you know, somebody who has some understanding of like, hey, I know how to do debits and credits, right? It's kind of like your bank account. So just think about this. And I put this in that little column to the right. You see tax filing. There's 3 columns. 990, those are gross receipts greater than 200,000, or total assets greater than or equal to 500. 990 easy is the opposite, which is gross receipts that are less than 200,000, and total assets at the end of the year that are less than 500,000. The 990N is probably the most simplest filing that nonprofits could do. And honestly, I think anybody here on this call could probably do it. Honestly, it is like step by step, tells you exactly what you need to do. And you really can't mess it up I mean, honestly, you just can't mess it up. And that is if your nonprofit only has gross receipts that are $50,000 or less. Now, most likely, most nonprofits, when you're just starting out, you're not going to be at that level, right? You're going to be probably, you know, somewhere in between there. So the 990N is a really simple, easy 990 to file, required every year. And then just remember, if you are a nonprofit that is required to have, you know, I don't know, maybe educators, and they need to be licensed by the state, you're required to follow and uphold all of those requirements per that person serving that population, or that community that's that your intent is, whatever that intent of your nonprofit is. Okay, I have another question. This is fact or myth. So what do you guys think? Do you have to open a separate bank account for your nonprofit? Yes or no? Love it. Love it. Yes, you are correct. Yes, absolutely. Because remember, your EIN is now its own, that EIN created that articles of incorporation. You are now an entity. You're a nonprofit. So you cannot funnel all that revenue and then pay out all those expenses out of your personal account. That's a huge no-no. So you want to make sure one of the very first things you do if you have a nonprofit, you get all of those materials for opening your nonprofit, and that all of those materials, your articles of incorporation, your sometimes they ask for the bylaws too, sometimes, but the big thing that they want to see is your board members, your articles of incorporation, the banks, that's the banks want to see this. And that's the information that typically you have to take to the bank to open up an account.
Repeat what it is again.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Repeat that again.
Okay. So it's typically your articles of incorporation showing you're an entity, your the list of your board members, And then sometimes they also like to have your copy of your bylaws. Sometimes, not all the time, but you know what? Here's my thing. The more you give them, the less questions they'll ask you. Because remember, all of this information, it's public information. Your nonprofit is not a private organization. It is a public. It is for the public. So think of this in terms of, yeah, I'm not really in the business of like hiding anything or keeping anything from the banks or anything like that. You want to be full transparent with all of these type of things that are associated with your nonprofit. Oops, sorry about that. All right, so perfect segue to funding and financial management. This is where I just wanted to give folks, when you're opening a nonprofit, you're just kind of like, I don't even know what like grants, restricted, unrestricted, what does that mean? How can I raise revenue? Who are some individuals and what kind individuals that are funders and honestly, like what do I have to follow? This accounting principle thing? What is that? So I thought this would be a really good thing just to share with everybody. Um, it kind of goes a little deep, but then the other thing I thought was really helpful because I know like when I coming, to like understanding the questions that I've been getting from nonprofits, it's like, what software do we even use? Like they don't, folks don't know, they're not aware. So I thought maybe that would be a good thing to add as well. So with funding, just remember grants is a revenue stream. Donors that donate to your organization is a revenue stream. Any events that you have, that's revenue. It's all earned revenue. So, and remember with grants, you have restricted grants and unrestricted grants. And so, really, all that means is let's say you get a grant and they say the grant is specifically to serve women to provide them professional development and you are going to serve, let's say the grant says 20 women for the quarter or year or what have you. That's a restricted grant. So you have to make sure that you follow all of those requirements to the T. And then oftentimes at the end there, you see oversee multi-source grant compliance. You have to report back to that funder, back to that grant funder, all of the great, wonderful things that you got to do with that restricted grant money. So just really be careful with, grants and making sure that you understand that there's oftentimes restricted and unrestricted. And then, oh my gosh, I got to do reporting too. And that's another reason why I put the software on here because keeping track of all of that kind of stuff, oh my gosh, it can make somebody's head explode. So some of these accounting software that's out there, they're built just for this. So there's some, you'll see the skill level beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Honestly, y'all, QuickBooks, I think everybody here could use QuickBooks. It's so, so simple. The QuickBooks Online program. And it really does track and it does give you some data reports too that you can pull and then be able to provide to your funders. I would still keep track of some information. Like if you use QuickBooks, still maybe keep some information using Excel as well. But some of these programs have that built in. So I thought maybe that would be a good idea for me to share some of that. And just remember also, you got to follow those generally accepted accounting principles. You have to follow those. It's just a rule of thumb for any business, be it profit or non-profit. Just follow those because really, again, the state can require, hey, we want to look at all your financial statements. And if you don't have all those ins and outs in the accurate and the right way, then you can put your nonprofit at risk and then putting the people that you're wanting to serve at risk too.
Let me actually make a comment and then ask a question.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So for what I will say for the QuickBooks, accounting is my background. QuickBooks can be simple, but I do always encourage people to have someone who's very knowledgeable set up your QuickBooks. Yes. Once somebody set up your QuickBooks, it's real simple because you probably only got about 4 or 5 lines. But if you don't have it set up correctly, that's when you can have a problem. And I mean, it's just that one time fee, get it set up all perfectly versus trying to do it and then
Yep.
messing it up and having a hard time trying to get your information cleaned up. So that's my one recommendation. The other thing I was going to ask you, when you were talking about the grants
Yep.
and you use that example of you're doing professional development
Yeah.
for
Mm.
the area, I was like, oh, that's kind of what I do.
Yeah.
So my question in those situations and when those grants are
Yeah.
offered, are they usually only for people who are listed as a nonprofit a lot of times? Or can if you can serve as a if you're a profit for-profit
Mm-hmm.
business and can serve show that you can serve that population,
Mm-hmm.
would you
Mm-hmm.
still be eligible for it?
Some grants are do have an allowance for profit if you can serve that population where there's no nonprofit available. Typically, grants do go to nonprofits. However, I've seen grants go to for profit business too. And basically, all that means is that they're underwriting your, you know, whatever your program is. And here's the other thing, as long as they get the intent of what they want accomplished in that grant done, they don't really have too many, issues on who is going to get those funds. So yeah, for profit businesses can absolutely obtain those. You see that a lot on the federal level. Federal level hire they don't hire just nonprofits. If anything, they hire for profits more than anything. And so I know when I was on a DOL grant, and we heard a lot that they also were partnering with businesses too. And it's just because, hey, if you can't be the only game in town, ensuring that whatever their need is to fulfill is being fulfilled. And so yeah, there's absolutely an opportunity there. You just have to hunt for them because a lot of times they do want to see community-based nonprofits. Yep. All right, I got one more. Okay. Fact or myth? Should my nonprofit have both a mission and a vision statement? What do y'all think? Oh, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, they should. It should have your nonprofit definitely should. And I think really honestly, any business, I think if your intent is impact, and I think any business is, it's not just about making money, but I think a lot of businesses now, especially, they're like, hey, I want to, I'm impacting the society, community, whatever. So having both a mission and a vision, I think is absolutely imperative every time. All right. So, the other reason why is because funders love seeing this. They love seeing a mission, vision, and values. Oh, values is another thing they love to see. So, if you can have all three of those, ooh, those funders, those grant funders, they love that. Just remember too that your programs should align with your mission and the community needs. So if you're thinking, man, I just don't know what kind of nonprofit, look at what your community, where are the gaps? What isn't being fulfilled within your community? And maybe that's a nonprofit that you can create. And then remember also when you're working on developing high impact programs, keep in mind of your KPIs and your OKRs, which KPIs are key performance indicators. That gives you of like how you're doing with your programs, initiatives, partnerships, whatever the case might be. And your OKRs are objectives and key results. That specifically gives you hindsight of, hey, okay, this is what we need to do next as an organization. Really important things when you're thinking about programs. And then once you're in your programs and actually doing the work, keeping the KPI and the OKR, like I would keep mindful of both of those. Again, I wanted to provide some platforms. This is specific to technology on, on data really, because you got to keep that data available and ready so you can share all of that information with your funders. So I did give some information on some platforms that I thought Little Green Light, Bloomerang. There's one CV CRM. Salesforce does some. They have a platform for data for specific for nonprofits, and then GiveButter. What I like about GiveButter, it's free. That's what I really like about GiveButter. So just remember though, if it's free, that means sometimes it has a little bit of kink still going on in there. So yeah. All right. So the other thing I want to make sure that I just shout out here, don't forget that website and to create social media accounts because it helps in getting your programs out to the masses. Denise, I mean, I think you have like you're like the poster child for this. Like you have nailed this. I mean, honestly, yes, create that Facebook, create that Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok, do it all because this is how you're going to get folks, um, to know who you are. I did include some other things like, okay, I need to create my website. What platform do I use? So nonprofits sometimes they just don't know where to go. And typically it's just a one-stop shop. So you're having to figure it out all by yourself. So I wanted to give some resources that I thought was helpful. You'll see what tools that it provides. And then to the right of that, what you'll see is like, hey, these are some of the things that you should include in your on your website in the pages. These are the pages that you should have. At least have these pages for your website. And most of these platforms, they have it embedded, created, very, very easy on how to make web pages. And then this one, just we won't do the poll, but I'll just answer this question. What nonprofit advocacy organization is free to join for all nonprofits in Tennessee? And that is the Tennessee Nonprofit Network. This organization, y'all, I just can't even say enough about it. This organization is top of the line for nonprofits in terms of helping you connect with other individual nonprofits, but also an advocate for nonprofits in the state, and they're free. So you do not have to, once you create your nonprofit, you do not have to pay anything to be a member of this network. And you get trainings, you get, oh my gosh, so many trainings. You get availability for some like insurance plans if you're part of them. Also investment stuff like 401k. I mean, they're just a great, wonderful organization in the state. But I also wanted just to shout out here other organizations that are really good to engage with that are all about advocacy, both in Tennessee and Mississippi. And that is probably the biggest thing I think about nonprofits is we have to partner with each other. Everybody has to partner with each other because enough of the silos that I've seen, at least in Tennessee, we're also like, oh, well, I do this. Well, guess what? This nonprofit kind of does this and maybe it can help you as well. So I just wanted to make sure that to address that. And then also remember when you're thinking about engagement and advocacy, you're including those marginal and marginalized voices in all the planning that you're doing and all the partnerships and the collaboration that you're doing because guess what? Funders love to see that. They see that you're partnering with this group and they're serving this marginalized group of individuals, and that's going to be a home run for you. So here are some pro tips because I know we're getting down on time here. Remember, your nonprofit is a nonprofit. It's mission focused. It's not about our ego. It's not about what we want. It's about what your nonprofit's going to serve. Who are they going to serve? Document everything, policies, board actions, data metrics, everything. Document everything. Build a diverse revenue stream. Diversification with revenue. I can't stress that enough. That's so important. Again, Denise, you're knocking it out of the park there too. We need to make sure that our portfolio is diverse with regard to revenue. Invest also in board education and strategic planning. The board is responsible for that strategic planning. As a CEO and executive director founder, you're part of that, but it's on them to create that strategic plan. Build those relationships, collaborate. I can't stress that enough. Meet people, get out there, touch base with folks, even people that you never thought like, hey, could this be a partnership? You never know. And then always be transparent because remember, at any point, the state can come and say, hey, let me look at your meeting minutes. Let me look at your financials, all of those things. So make sure you stay very transparent. And lastly, again, this is the resources. I'm going to give this to Denise. Call to action to you all is just take some time, visit my, visit my company, Thrive Impact Solution, and I'd be happy, and I'd be so excited to help anybody here build their, nonprofit and their mission. So thank you so much. I appreciate you all. And I'm going to keep this up just for a minute if anybody wants to take a scan of my QR code, but my contact information's there with my email as well.
Awesome. This is so good. I got like 3 pages of notes. So
Yay! Yay!
it was good. Does anybody have any questions? I wasn't sure. Put in the chat whether or not you have a nonprofit,
Yeah.
or if you are considering starting a nonprofit. So if you guys can put that in the chat, I'll take you out of the hot seat. But please share, because I'm curious to know why you jumped on. Was it because you could be like me, I'm trying to figure it out. So I have my business with Considering CD Maxine, my business that serves women, and what people are saying to me all the time. And one of my concerns, and I did say this to Andrea, is that I was trying to figure out, because this is like, I don't have another full-time job. This is my career. So whether or not I could put myself in position to be able to still get paid, make some money while I'm still passionately serving the women through my mission statement of just empowering women. So she helped me to say, yes, you can, but of course, being that reasonable. So, does anybody have any questions? Was this information valuable? I mean, I thought it was, I learned so much, and I have people who I know have nonprofits. I'm going to suggest that they review this just to make sure that they have everything in line, that they're maximizing, and also being in compliance.
Yes.
So, did you hear people?
The one thing I will say too that I thought about, it was kind of an afterthought, Denise, because I remember our conversation about, kind of what you're already talking about. I have a business, I'm looking at it, maybe converting it to a nonprofit or maybe parts of it. So one of the things that I do recommend is, if you're going to keep your business, part of your business for profit, keep it. Create just a totally new nonprofit. Don't try to merge your current business. Don't try to convert it into a nonprofit. That's often a little bit more difficult. It's easier, honestly, if you just create a new nonprofit. Can it have the same name? Sure. I don't see why not. There's no stipulations. You can put like I don't know, maybe add something, one word different in there if you needed to, but it's often recommended to just completely create a whole new nonprofit.
Okay.
Yep.
I can see that making more sense than trying to beg and filter it in.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Excuse me.
Well, this was so great. I'm so glad that I was able to come and present for you all. And please, if you have any needs, please let me know. Or if you have friends, other companies, other businesses, I'm happy to talk to folks and help where I can.
Do you do, because I know a couple other experts that came on, do you do like a nonprofit audit? I guess that's the best way to describe it, where you go, somebody say, hey, can you see if my stuff is in compliance, that type of deal?
Yep, that's exactly what I do. 100%. Yep. I could be that person that just walks right from start to start, middle, whenever. But yeah, doing audits on nonprofits just to make sure you're in compliance. 100%. I'm kind of a nerd that way. That's actually kind of what I enjoy, because I want to make sure people are doing it right. Because your purpose is to be there for you, especially, you want to empower more women.
Yes.
So I'm like, girl, let's do that. I want to make sure you're successful doing that. So let's make sure all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, so nothing happens.
Right. and I want to be in position to be, and I don't know if other people feel this way,
Yes.
able to maximize. Like I don't want to miss an opportunity just because I was afraid to do the nonprofit
Right.
of the stuff, which we could have
Right.
gave me more access to make a difference to more people. So
That's right.
that's definitely, so some of the comments, I don't know if you see this, this has been amazing. I too have about 3 pages of notes, great information. Thank you. Very good. Definitely helpful. Thank you. I started the process but got stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, that can happen. That can happen. I know. Well, you have my contact information. Please reach out. Maybe there's something we could do to partner.
Yeah, so let me just the last little slide here that I always want to share real quickly. Let me fast forward, because you took care of a bunch of, you gave us tips. You helped us go through challenges. You answered our questions. Um, and I think this is all the
Yes.
information that's also, if they,
Yes.
okay. So want to make sure you guys saw this as well. And then lastly, this is, how I always love to close my, let's talk about it Tuesdays. You have been empowered, you guys. We don't empower just to keep it to ourselves. Empowered women empower. So you have, you may know of somebody, you have friends who may already be there. Like I said before, we just want to make sure that they have considered all the things that they need to consider. We are our sister's keeper. We are our sister's keeper. So we want to share because we care. So it's the whole goal is to help as many women as possible be in the best version of themselves, in the best position as themselves. So don't just take this information for your share. Let's empower others to be great as well. And if you are considering or have stuck like the one young lady said, please reach out to Andrea, and let's continue to make a difference and be able to do it with confidence. That's the biggest thing, that right, to do it with confidence. So I appreciate you guys for getting on tonight and bearing with my, I call it my, um, my sexy 1-900 voice that I won't charge y'all for. So thank you for getting on, and hope to see you next week as well, you guys, for the Hibblers. It's going to be a great conversation. So have a great rest of the night. Thanks. Good night, Andrea. Thank you.